Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where you know what? The box office right now lacks direction. We're flailing all over the place, man. It's been a tough month, which is a shame because October has been developed into a great release date for fall blockbusters. I mean, Disney tried with Tron Ares, only for it to de-res. And while Black Phone 2 is certainly very solid, it's not a Conjuring 4 or a Final Destination 6. But then again, that's a 2 versus a 4 and a 6. So maybe someday Black Phone as a franchise will get there. Might want to be a little less experimental, but it's building something there for sure. And then, of course, Mortal Kombat 2 was supposed to drop this weekend. Was Warner Brothers moving that sequel to summer 2026 the cause of this box office malaise? Or did Warner Brothers shrewdly move Mortal Kombat 2 away from this box office malaise, allowing it to escape? I mean, these aren't great opening acts. Also, the World Series this weekend turned out to be a huge conflict with the movie business, although maybe the movie business didn't make guys a very good offer. So yeah, most guys stayed home. Grumble, 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 said the movie business. And you're like, what did you offer them? But yeah, Regretting You, of course, skewed hugely female, but I am pretty surprised that the Bruce Springsteen movie skewed female as well. I think it's Jeremy Allen White. We're going to talk about that. Some guys, a few, did make time for the latest anime movie from Sony/Crunchyroll, although Mortal Kombat 2 would certainly have expected a higher opening than the high teens. The last Mortal Kombat movie, to which this is a sequel, opened during the pandemic and was one of those day-and-date releases on HBO Max, and it still managed to open in the low 20s. That's why it's getting a sequel. This sequel is said to be far more accurate to the game, with much more fighting, and it's expected to open much bigger. Although, how big? Nobody knows for sure just yet. We know that it had a lot of excitement, but Warner Brothers shrewdly moved it before early box office tracking could come online. Oh, they're making a lot of moves over there at Warner Brothers. We'll see how it works out for them. But they certainly are the talk of the town. Disney's like, you're supposed, people are, even Warner Brothers is such a hot topic right now. They're even eclipsing Disney's horrible 2025. All right, so anyway, with Mortal Kombat 2, again, moved to summer 2026, do you think it was a good idea seeing how this weekend ended up and how bad this October has been and the World Series and stuff like that? Are you feeling a little better about the Mortal Kombat move? All right, so anyway, let's discuss what is in our trick-or-treat bag for the weekend. So what do we got here? We got an anime movie. We have one of Colleen Hoover's worst books. The whitest movie, one of the whitest movies you've ever seen. Wait till we go over the audience breakdown for the Springsteen movie. And then also a YouTuber turned filmmaker. Here's a fun game. What do you believe is the candy equivalent or the trick-or-treat equivalent? Because, some of these could be an apple that you would say each of these movies represent, right? What trick-or-treat snack would you match to the movie? But I will tell you, I don't think any of these are a full-size Snickers bar. Oh, I love it when you go to a house and discover they're giving out full-size candy. I remember that so vividly from when I was trick-or-treating. I would love to hear your best trick-or-treat story. Mine is the one Halloween I went to my grandmother's house in Pittsburgh. It was an amazing haul. I'll never forget it. It was incredible. Most houses had full-size candy. It felt like what trick-or-treating was supposed to be. All right, so anyway, it was so fun lining up all the candy that we got. All right. Chainsaw Man, that's probably a pretty good piece of candy. It's no Demon Slayer, though, right? But again, the Demon Slayer franchise is much further along. And Chainsaw Man's opening, interestingly enough, is close to the opening of the first Demon Slayer movie that released in theaters in North America back in 2021, when Mortal Kombat, by the way, that last movie came out. Again, this movie skewed hugely male, but its diversity demos are fantastic. What's exciting to me, it's funny, I like a lot of stuff, I like a lot of male skewing content, but I saw the trailer for Chainsaw Man and I couldn't believe it was a real thing. But I hope that those of you who liked it. But anyway, what excites me about this movie's #1 debut is that it's another good sign for Paramount's upcoming The Legend of Aang movie, which interestingly enough hits theaters next October, right? Although the Street Fighter movie is set to open the weekend right after that. Hopefully, The Last Airbender, in addition to, does it still have a strong male fan base? I was worried. But it has, of course, a very strong female and LGBTQ fan base, right? So that could help supercharge it or be all that it has left. I'm very curious. At least Aang is the lead, an adult Aang. I think that will help it tremendously. And so we'll see if maybe that can give it long legs beyond its opening weekend. But I would love to see The Legend of Aang open at number 1. And these recent anime number 1 debuts give me hope. Oh, are you going to see The Legend of Aang in theaters? I'm so excited. As a fan and for what it means for the business and adult animation in North America, I'm very excited. All right, so IMAX was instrumental in Chainsaw Man's success, repping 58% of its opening weekend. I mean, if you're going to watch anime on a big screen, watch it on a big screen. I love it. However, Chainsaw Man is going to lose all those IMAX screens this coming weekend because of the re-releases of Sinners and Back to the Future for its 40th anniversary, which are splitting the IMAX screens next weekend. I cheated and watched it already this past week, Back to the Future. I'm working my way through the trilogy again. Those movies hold up. It's incredible. So while guys, what did you do this weekend if you were a guy? Did you probably watch the World Series? You might have played a little video games. Maybe you went outside. I know. But a lot of ladies, it turns out, went to the movies. Oh boy, as you can see, critics did not care for Regretting You, nor for Springsteen Deliver Me from Nowhere. But audiences liked them, the ones that went, and kind of. I mean, that B Cinema score for Regretting You is pretty bad. Both movies skewed white. Springsteen, really white. And by the way, sometimes you guys are like, what does it matter? Well, look how low the numbers are, right? And I have to say, as we've seen week to week, when we do look at the demographics, audiences of color are a big driver at the multiplex. So these movies, I hope they kept, they are pretty low budget, but if you don't have broad appeal, again, you better keep that budget down because you're not going to do as well as you otherwise would at the box office. So not broad appeal on either of these films. And Springsteen skewed older. Look, Springsteen was always going to face an uphill battle because his music hasn't had the same longevity as other artists. Also, he's politicized himself, and so that's going to cut into his audience as well for all of his work. But why the heck would Disney release a Springsteen movie opposite the World Series? Seems like, in retrospect, a huge mistake. Springsteen is actually a somewhat interesting movie, but it's more about mental health than his music. Surprise! I sure was surprised. You can check out my review. But these audience scores are pretty darn good, actually. So it makes me feel that there's a chance the movie could find an audience down the road on digital and maybe even on streaming. You think you might give Springsteen a whirl down the line? Or some of you in the comments are like, there's nothing that could get you to watch Springsteen. And I understand that. As I said, his music just hasn't had that same longevity as other people's. But I know a lot of you who dismiss this movie would actually be the most interested in the mental health conversation. So you might want to check it out. All right, so this isn't a great sign for Jeremy Allen White's ability to open a movie, but the fact that he got a lot of ladies to see Bruce Springsteen, I think is very impressive. I know Bruce Springsteen was a heartthrob himself, was and is, but I think, I don't think quite to the degree that it would have this kind of a result. I think you got to give credit to Jeremy Allen White. Next up, he voices Rhoda the Hutt in Mandalorian and Grogu. He has Aaron Sorkin's The Social Reckoning, which reteams him with Jeremy Strong from this movie. Jeremy Strong is so good in this movie. And then also a crime, in Springsteen. And then also a crime thriller opposite Austin Butler, who the jury's still out on whether or not he can sell a ticket. That movie might have great hairstyles and great white boy smolder, but to an empty audience. We'll see. Maybe they could put Glenn Powell in it too. All right, but Glenn Powell is the new Ryan Gosling. Sometimes he hits, sometimes he doesn't. So anyway, Jeremy Allen White, dude, clearly you should be looking for a romantic drama. I think that is clearly what he should be doing next. And you know who you should reach out to? Celine Song. You're welcome. That's the perfect pairing for him. As for Regretting You, as we've discussed, it's not one of Colleen Hoover's best books. It's a bit of a bargain. The movie was already moving ahead, but because of the success of It Ends With Us, it got a little bit more traction. But I mean, look at the cast. I mean, I could tell you from the cast that Regretting You wasn't going to do well. I mean, Blake Lively's a stinker, but that was a hot book, right? A juicy scandal was breaking just as the movie came out, and it was riding the coattails of Deadpool and Wolverine, only to torpedo both films and Ryan Reynolds' career as well. Wow, that was crazy. But yeah, we all knew Dave Franco's career was over, but with this and then Megan 2.0 glitching earlier this year, I think Allison Williams is done too. I mean, we knew she was done. It looked like maybe she'd gotten a reprieve with the first Megan, but no, our instincts were correct. It's not going to work out for her. Then Chris Stuckman's Shelby Oaks. Let's talk about it. All right, so it managed to open in the top 10 and had balanced appeal between men and women. It's got that going for it. And with 74% of the audience between 18 and 34, it seems that a lot of viewers of Stuckman's YouTube channel over the years clearly came out to support him, or at least showed up out of curiosity. So he had some pull as a name, right? Now, that RT score is awful from the critics, but you could be like, it's the industry gatekeeping. They don't want to see a YouTuber become a big movie director. But then there's the audience score, which is pretty bad. The cinema score is not great, but it never is for horror, so you can't hold that against the movie. As we always discuss, horror is the best genre for a filmmaker to get their start in Hollywood, as the budgets are cheap, but with the hardcore horror fan base, there's the potential for big box office returns and to kind of like jump forward in your career, right? To be seen as commercial right away. Those are the two paths usually. Indie, filmmaking, and horror. Those are the two ways in. This is a really low opening. It's real low. But, Steven freaking Soderbergh, his own last movie, also horror, didn't open much better. Also from Neon. So maybe Neon's partially to blame here. Maybe just a little bit. But to really break it down, I think one of the biggest problems for Shelby Oaks was Chris Stuckman's now fateful decision to stop doing negative reviews. He didn't want to badmouth anyone in the industry he was hoping to join. And that's, you can see where he was coming from with that. But that decision, he made that a year ago, and it created tremendous audience erosion for his reviews, which he did also less frequently because he was making a movie, but also because he didn't want to do any bad reviews. I don't think that I've ever heard of Chris Stuckman being disrespectful in his negative reviews, so I don't know why he would be worried about offending anybody. It's not like he was a toxic channel, right? And I think it would help to remember that Hollywood is drawn to, above all, success. Just focus on being a success. Then you can worry about everything else. So Stuckman would have been, I think, better off making sure he preserved his audience and his image so that it was intact for the release of his film. I'd also say that not willing to do bad reviews for fear of angering people in the industry shows a lack of aggressiveness. And while I haven't seen Shelby Oaks myself, based on what I've seen from the reaction from critics and audiences, a lack of aggressiveness in his creative endeavors might be an issue as well. The consensus seems to be maybe that it's an homage to other horror films rather than its own horror film, and that maybe Stuckman is still more critic and fan than he is filmmaker. But I would say, again, having not seen it, it seems like a case of playing it a little too safe. So we'll see. We'll see. I think he's benefiting from a really weak box office. So his agent, if he has one, can say, hey, he opened in the top 10. But the bad reviews are a problem. We'll see. Would you see another Chris Stuckman movie if you went to see this one? And if you didn't, do you think you might maybe check it out down the line on digital? They're already pushing it over on Apple. As for the rest of the top 10, a little bit of a rough week for Oscar contenders. One battle after another suffered a bigger drop this week. But the real issue isn't the drop itself, but that it put it at the bottom of the top 10 and close to dropping out, which means it'll soon be out of sight. So this movie needs to hit digital ASAP to make sure it stays in the conversation. It's rumored to hit digital in mid-November. I think it should maybe hit in early November. And maybe that's why they haven't announced it yet, because they're keeping an eye on how it's doing in theaters. It's time to release the Kraken on digital. Let's do it. Then Begonia actually opened on par in limited release with Poor Things, a return to form for Yorgos Lanthimos and Emma Stone after Kinds of Kindness didn't really connect. But they opened Begonia on too many screens. And I say that because the per theater average isn't great. If you're going to open in limited release, the goal is for a sexy per theater average that you can shout from the rooftops to show that your movie is hot stuff. And they don't have that here. So, I mean, it was selling out, and I was going to go and see Blue Moon on Friday, but I couldn't because poor Richard Linklater and Ethan Hawke and Margaret Qualley, they took that screen and gave it to Begonia. There was no evening showtime for Blue Moon, even though it also was just opening. Whew. So that's pretty good, but you can't really put that in the headline. But I mean, I did just tell the story. So we'll see how Begonia does. It's going to go wide this coming weekend. I did not care for that movie, but I'm not a Yorgos Lanthimos fan. I have a friend who loves Yorgos Lanthimos. She loved it. All right, so that's the answer. If you like Yorgos Lanthimos, go see that movie. I continue to feel that while Lanthimos and Stone have their fans, like my friend, and Stone is racking up Oscars like she's the new Meryl Streep, and she just might be, very impressive, she needs to get her box office numbers back on track. Is Cruella 2 still a thing? Does anybody still want that? I'm not sure. They might have missed their window. Or maybe another team up with Ryan Gosling. He's not reliable on his own, but they're magic together. Or maybe another movie she could find a script like The Help, right? What do you think should be Emma Stone's next career move? She doesn't have anything booked at the moment. Tron Ares. Whew, what a stinker. That's a great movie. It's not a great movie, but it's really good. Unless Masters of the Universe somehow gives him a reprieve, I think this might go down as the movie that actually finally killed off Jared Leto's career. We'll see. Masters of the Universe must be so nervous right now. They're like, why? And we're like, we told you not to do it. And it also looks like Keanu Reeves' John Wick capital is winding down. He's spending it on some interesting, it's his life. Keanu Reeves is very endearing because he walks to a different beat quite successfully. I mean, he has Matrix money. He can do whatever he wants. And he gives a lot of that money away, by the way. He's really a wonderful person. So you be you, Keanu. Although not a lot of people are seeing his movies. But if he wants to get back on track, he just has to make another proper John Wick movie and he'll be just fine. Now, over on streaming, starting with Nielsen as usual, let's cut right to the drama, which is all on the originals chart, where, oh boy, no Alien Earth, no Peacemaker, no Gen V. It is dark days for genre content. Are you guys pirating this stuff, or are you just simply not watching it? Are you just watching breakdowns and not watching the actual shows? What's happening? All right, so let's go through them. This was the week for we'll start with Alien Earth. This was the week of the season finale of Alien Earth, which drops on Tuesdays, on a Tuesday. So that means it's early on in this chart. And the fact that it still couldn't trend, and the numbers are pretty low. I mean, that means there was no binge bump when all 8 episodes became available. That is disastrous. It's been over a month now since the show ended, because Nielsen's a month behind. And they even had a New York Comic-Con panel. No season 2 announcement. I don't think we're getting a season 2. And yet another show learns the hard way that you don't save the cool stuff for a future season that might never come. You put it all on the table, Holly, and you let it ride. Now, James Gunn felt he was putting it all on the table, but when fans saw his hand, they thought, are you bluffing? I mean, wow. And by the way, this was the week of episode 6. I think the best episode of the season, certainly in terms of hype and its ability to deliver. I mean, this was the Earth X reveal, right? Where it still seemed that Gunn, he might deliver on the promises that he was making. Like, he hyped episode 6 like crazy for weeks. So the fact that this was the make or break, I mean, he's still 2 episodes to go. But this was the episode where he should have started to chart. This is pretty bad. Some people are like, well, HBO maybe doesn't have enough subscribers, Grace. Maybe that's the problem. Well, it can't be, because other HBO shows managed to get on these charts, like House of the Dragon, The Last of Us, White Lotus. Even Penguin, at the end of its run, managed to chart. And to be fair, Peacemaker still has 2 episodes to go. This is bad, though. It's real bad. All right, so I told him the audience for this show was niche. All right, then let's talk Gen V. So yes, this was the second week of Gen V Season 2, where it switched from its initial drop of 3 episodes to just 1 episode. And it's not on the chart. I mean, I think you can now see why Eric Kripke was like, please watch Gen V Season 2 so we can get a Season 3. He's looking at the numbers in real time, and he's sweating. Is this a bad sign for the upcoming The Boys Season 5, the final season? I don't think so. This is a spin-off show that intentionally is the complete opposite of The Boys. There are, in fact, Gen V fans who don't watch The Boys. Craziness. Madness. We're going to talk about this. So also, I want to say, though, there's no Homelander. And to me, Homelander is The Boys. Although, to be fair, Cypher was an amazing character who deserved to be on The Boys. I'm upset that we didn't get to see him go up against Homelander. By the way, in interviews, Kripke has said, you don't have to watch Gen V to watch The Boys. Just like Gunn has admitted that he intentionally made it so that you didn't have to watch Peacemaker Season 2, even though he said it was instrumental in building his DCU. But then he said recently, yeah, I made it so that you could just go right to Man of Tomorrow. And Alien Earth didn't tie into Alien Romulus or the upcoming Alien movie they're working on now. Hollywood. The whole magic of cinematic universes from a creative and business standpoint, and then even Marvel is learning, the hard way as well, is that everything is supposed to tie together. That's where the cinematic universe comes in. That's the whole point. The thing is, you just can't overtax the audience. You have to have self-control. I mean, that's tough for Hollywood. You know, they love to run things into the ground. You could only release like 2 movies a year and 1 to 2 shows. And they have to all be connected for this to work. That's the way it goes. Or you just make separate shows that are just successful on the stream, on that platform. It's tough. What do you think would be the balancing act to make cinematic universe? I mean, there are some people who argue that cinematic universes simply can't be in both mediums. Either you got to pick, you're in the movie space or you're in the show space. I don't know if I'm totally sold on that because, you know, in the beginning, it worked so well for Marvel with those first shows. So, and those were, I think, very crucial. Although then, of course, it blew up in their face with Captain America and the movie based on that show. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. As for the rest of the originals chart, Netflix is just dominating. Look at that, 8 out of the 10 spots. And wow, Jason Bateman. Speaking of choosing a platform, he is a true streaming star. Next up, he's doing a dark comedy, but not for Netflix. He's moving over to HBO, opposite David Harbour. David Harbour's personal life is kind of blowing up in his face right now in slow motion. We'll see if it sticks to him. We'll see if he goes the way of some other people who've been semi-canceled, right? Like canceled enough that the audience knows, but not so canceled that Hollywood realizes it. How are you feeling about David Harbour these days? Would you still watch something that he's in? He has something with Pedro Pascal coming up too. So here's the overall chart. Not too much happening here, but what's the most interesting is what's not here, and that's Superman in its first full week on HBO Max, where, you know, remember, HBO said it was doing amazing numbers. Maybe globally, because, you know, Nielsen's only North America. But Superman couldn't make the overall chart, but it did jump to number 2 on the movies chart. Yeah, James Gunn. He's having a rough patch, and the timing couldn't be worse, just as he's about to get a new boss. Over on Netflix's charts for just last week, they're much faster at getting their numbers up, but, you know, they're their own numbers. Keira Knightley is still a very strong number 1. As I said last week, I think her relationship with Netflix is only getting stronger. Look for that to ramp up. If I were Netflix and Keira Knightley and her agent, I'd be very happy with the way this movie was performing. While K-pop Demon Hunters has settled into a new normal. You know, it used to be 20 million views per week. Now it's around 15 million views per week. That's still amazing. It's in frickin' week 18. And it's re-releasing its sing-along back in theaters this coming weekend. And I gotta tell you, at first I was just checking out October 31st, Halloween, and the ticket sales didn't look great. So I was like, but then I was like, oh, maybe it's just because it's Halloween. Let's check out Saturday. Bam! Look at the pre-sales. I'm very curious to see how this does. Remember, last time it was number 1. I'm very curious to see where it's going to land at the box office this coming weekend. Will you be checking it out in theaters? Then with shows, Monster Season 3 is soft, but at least it's still number 1, barely edging out newcomer Boots, which got some free publicity from the Pentagon. And yikes, The Diplomat Season 3. Such an amazing show, but where's the audience? I mean, it did just hit the chart. It's not a full week, but that's really low. How does it keep getting renewed? It's already renewed for a season 4. Yay, I love this show so much, and I'm paying it forward. I'm getting a lot of you to watch. I'm so glad you're enjoying it as much as I do. But the reason it keeps getting renewed is awards. It gets tons of nominations for its first 2 seasons. And with this excellent season 3 that just dropped, maybe it might start winning some of those nominations. It's won 1 award, I think 1 ASTRA award, and that's it. All right, then on digital with Apple's charts, here's a surprise. The Long Walk, which just dropped on digital on Tuesday, but started out a little lower down. Here we are on the weekend, it's number 1. I hated that movie, but I'm very happy for Alien Romulus' David Johnson, who co-stars. And Apple continues to push its own F1 very successfully on its platform. Now it's just $20 to own, and as you can see, it's back up at number 2. Meanwhile, Disney's The Roses is struggling even here on digital, just as it did in theaters. It's also almost Halloween. It's Halloween week, and as you can see, horror is doing very well. It'll be interesting next weekend to see what Halloween content manages to chart. What are you planning to watch to celebrate Halloween? There are the classics, of course, but what new movies and shows are coming out for Halloween week? In theaters, lots of re-releases. We've got, as I said, Sinners, Back to the Future for the 40th anniversary, and K-pop Demon Hunters, as well as Bahubali, which has been recut and remastered as a single film, combining the 2 original blockbusters of 2015 and 2017. Also, Begonia will go into wide release. On streaming on Wednesday, I guess to get out ahead of Halloween, we have some big movies coming out from very strong talent. There's Hedda hitting Prime Video and Ballad of a Small Player on Netflix. That looks really good to me. I want to watch that one in particular. But the real action this week is with shows. Tonight, Welcome to Derry is HBO's new Sunday night phenomenon. Let's see. I urge you to watch it as it airs to not only avoid spoilers, but to hopefully be part of the party on social media. And my breakdown will be waiting for you as soon as the episode ends. The Mayor of Kingstown also returns tonight, now with Edie Falco. Then on Wednesday, Down Cemetery Road starts on Apple TV from the team behind Slow Horses. I've become a Slow Horses super fan. I even like the new season, although I've seen some people turning on it. But if you don't like the new season of Slow Horses, I would say that this show is the new season of Slow Horses, like on steroids. I love Emma Thompson. I love Ruth Wilson, but I got advanced screeners for this. I could not get through it. I mean, it had a pretty good ending of the first episode, so I was like, okay, I'll try the second episode. I quit halfway through, and I'm not going to go back. So what a shame. What a shame. Has Been Hotel, maybe you'll like it though. Has Been Hotel also starts at season 2 on Prime Video on Wednesday, and Disney Plus drops an entire new season of Star Wars Visions. While on Thursday, Liam Hemsworth will try to wield Henry Cavill's sword on The Witcher season 4. Good luck, Liam. Good luck. All right, and don't be too mean to Liam. You know, you wouldn't turn down the paycheck, right? I mean, Henry Cavill wasn't going to stay either way. All right, and that's this week's Movie Math. What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? And again, what are your viewing plans for Halloween week? Share those thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.